Honourable Mr. Speaker, Honourable Co-Presiding Officer, ladies and gentlemen, honourable members of the House, my name is Pascal Buckley. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of LEC.
Thank you.
Honourable Mr. Speaker, honourable members of the House, my name is Samuel Zimbel. I'm the Executive Director of Commercial and Regulatory at LEC.
Mr. Speaker, you respond to our queries.
Yeah, you will, yeah.
Co-presiding, thank you. The veteran that talked about a little query. Well, I just listened to my colleague when he talked about disrespect being mentioned on this Honorable House of Representatives, including communities. What I want to bring to the attention of the LEC, two things. Whether the Ministry of Finance had not paid the money to them, or the Ministry of Finance had paid the money. That's one of my inquiry, whether they have paid the money or not. If they receive it, then they should be able to give for that clarity. The second thing here is, as you rightly stated, I don't think it's only with LEC. There are individuals who just decided to put up defiant and disrespectful posture when it comes to dealing with this legislation. LEC has a team called Anti-Theft Unit. A guy went to the Hammerfield community. He started to bring down, in fact, they were well armed, started to bring down light poles, wires and what have you. I decided to engage them. I thought on a very similar package and what have you. The gentleman named Gibson stood in my face in the public and told me, you go to wherever you want to go, we'll cut down all of these wires. Those people were paying all the wires that were hanging on that stuff, they were buying current. Up to present, he have taken all of the wires down. A lady who works in LEC instructed them that her sister wire should remain. They cut my very wire and they told me, if you are a lawmaker, exercise your power. But we were only instructed to leave this wire alone. And right now that wire is hanging there, and my wire was brought down in the public. I have meter and I'm buying current. I have meter hanging there, paying for current. Right now it is my generator that I'm running. We are talking about a level of disrespect. If you say you are anti-theft unit, why you brought down other people's wires from this pole, and then you stood in the public and said, a lady in LEC that works there, her sister name is Laurenti, her wire will remain there and nobody can do nothing. On the hammer fee, the wire is currently there. No. No, she does not. The Laurenti will, I have with her. This is a serious matter when we're addressing it, we don't do that.
Okay.
I am saying to you, I have a meter, but listen.
Colleagues,
You don't do that, man.
colleagues, protect your colleague as your colleague is making his case. So please, let us, your time reaches your talk.
Mr. Speaker, as I said to conclude, I have a meter that I'm paying for and I'm purchasing current. And I displayed that to this guy who named Gibson, who are handling this thing. And I spoke to another guy called Francis. I think he should be the third or fourth authority in this, the power theft unit. Since I spoke to him, it's been almost 2 weeks. When I call, he does not respond to my call. I asked him to come to here. He told me, Honorable, if you want to see me, come to LEC compound, but not coming to the capital. So I talked to register with them, and these are the names, and I got their telephone numbers. Thank God I came here, I will get the telephone numbers. Hammerfield right now, if you went there, Laurenti's sister wire is still on that pole, and it was a big mockery to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess Lai Barry.
Assistant Minister for Mines.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that the testimony I'm about to give,
that the testimony I'm about to give,
as it relates to this hearing,
as it relates to this hearing,
will be the truth,
will be
will be
the
the
truth.
truth,
nothing but the truth.
nothing but
Nothing
the
but the
truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And with me up. And in case if I will drop it. Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Speaker, Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I want to thank the Honorable Minister for honoring our request and coming, because some of what he is saying is what was discussed yesterday when it comes to the hazards and risks that our communities are facing. But my main concern has been with the economic loss to the country. Then second to the economic loss is the security factor. What is ironic about this whole thing, the Ghanaians claim to be the land of gold, but then they are in Liberia making our gold. So for me, if we can really look at the allotment for these sectors, someone even suggested the town chiefs being put on payroll, things to give incentives for our people to be able to be those watch guards for our community, especially in rural Liberia. My people are complaining, but yet they are the town, they call themselves stranger fathers to these people. And I told them, you all are the first line of defense when it comes to protecting the environment, protecting our resources. Riverside being one of the least developed, but our economic value is so high. So if we can come to an understanding along with the Ministry of Internal Affairs, where our people, we have a conference for them to know the value on which we sit, because when most of that resource goes to national government, hardly anything leaves behind for the community. And mining is extraction. It's not like farming where next year you will have a harvest. Once it is taken away, it is gone forever. So I think that since we are looking at the budget now, trying to see where we can start, not with the whole amount maybe, but from here, graduating, that we can lift it up higher and see what can be generated. I'm on the budget committee and I saw what was realized or generated by the ministry last budget year, 21 million, right? And out of that 21 million, how much percentage can be sent back to beef up the mobility so that the monitoring process can go forward? Immigration, they have a lot to play in there, but they are constrained with, manning borders, seeing that people are having the requisite documents to be in the country in the first place. The health area is posing hazards from those chemicals they use in the water and all of that. So I think what you have said earlier, Mr. Minister, if we together, because now one sector is a multi-sectoral problem, but then we have to apply a multi-sectoral solution. So if we can come together and see how we can put in our part of this pie to make sure that our people benefit and Liberia at large benefits. Thank you.
We have now set up, or recommended the minimum wage go to the president for appointment in line with the DWA. We are required to establish a National Tribal Council, and the law says it should be quarterly, and the minister should determine the sitting fees. Honorable, as we speak, we have established the Tribal Council, but the members, have just been so nationalistic, I have not been able to pay them a dime because I do not have the money in my budget. Two, the minimum wage go, we are far behind. You are right. The law says the minister shall recommend to the president for appointment. And the background of the people should be lawyer, economist, blah, blah, blah. Then it says again, the minister should determine their salary. I don't have the money for that. So, collectively as a government, if you can recall, we talked about it last year when you asked that same question. If the funding can be available jointly, we work on the budget, I'm prepared to recommend to the president for the appointment, but there's no funding for that. Thank you, sir. I don't know if you have captured that. Just from the support to the trafficking persons with the $25,000 and other work through prosecution, because some funds, money to justice ministry for prosecution, tracing victims of trafficking. We were able to graduate at another level. I'm told by my controller that that land is vacant again. And that is going to affect the country. If we were to drop at tier 3, this country will have lost more than 200-300 million in bilateral support. The amount may be small to support the fight, but if you don't do, the negative impact is so huge. It's trafficking in person, TRP land, TRP. And the honor level, I'm told is 0. And if the partners should just say that again, they will say we don't want to show the political will. I just said, I try to make a case, I don't know what we have.
For the agents, man agents on the field, I want to know whether they are allowed to go into mining they themselves. I asked a question for the background and my own observation, most of the agents, or your field agents, are involved in mining. The second question here, Minister, you said you don't have enforcement power. But I'm concerned in asking for increasement in budget. How do you reconcile that if you don't have enforcement power? Thank you.
Our committee has not been working. In fact, besides the committee set up here, I can remember the committee on public utility invited the LEC, stated to us, like what my chairman just mentioned, that some of these information or the money given them are aware. Now that we are not giving them the opportunity to provide us what they badly need to know, but they have refused to speak up. That's the information I want to give. They are not cooperating. Yeah, they are not cooperating with us. So this time around, if we are allowing the committee to go back to work with them, let's get a strong mandate to our committee. These people are being very defiant. They are not been respecting the committee. So I just want to provide that clarity of my information. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Honorable
Mr. Speaker, co-presiding colleagues. I think this stimulus package was to empower our people when it comes to the state of emergency and the lockdown. And up to this time, LEC is now telling us that they are still in the process of making arrangements that they can get back to our people. Why they are in the process, Honorable Speaker, I just want to ask LEC, because at the time the cross-border current came to Liberia, we had street lights all over the city, Kanto, Sanikole, Tapeta, Sekleke, even Grand Jida, maybe the people from Grand Jida can speak to that. There were street lights. But to a certain point, the street lights all disappear and all of the cities are in darkness. So I would like for LEC to also address this issue because it's an opportunity where they can also tell us as to the faith of LEC giving life to our people. As you know, cities as such, you have LEC poles planted, you have their wires all running up and down, and I think they enjoy the immunity of the cities. So to have the cities all be in darkness, I think it's something that it has created some fears in the community and insecurity and things like that. So we want for LEC to address ourselves to such an issue. Thank you very much.
The Ministry of Mines and Energy. The Ministry of Mines and Energy is severely underfunded, for that matter, severely under-resourced to effectively execute its core mandate and functions. So we're faced with the barrage of logistical constraints. We don't have mobility, vehicles. We don't have the necessary hardware and software. We need to come up to speed with modern technology. We have to deploy the use of AI devices like drones. Most of the areas are very, very hard to reach. I think you've been seeing some pictures of people going to interior bars. So how do we get there? Perhaps it would be a system with some drones to solve the hard to reach areas. That could be another way. But particularly during the dry season, we need to comb the length and breadth of this country through all of the mining regions. And that can be only facilitated by having mobility, enough for.
Yeah? So the problem also is with the mining agents. Is that it was with the inspectors. They are not helping the government of Liberia. Unless we have people who have nationalistic feeling for this country, we're not going to go nowhere. We're not going to go nowhere.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
The remedy to curb this kind of illegal practice by those that go into the sector, the mining sector.
The first remedy.
Honorable Co-Presiding, distinguished colleagues. Honorable Speaker, as the discussion is forthcoming, the director, the managing director, told us that the entity is in discussion with the Ministry of Finance. And since they are in discussion with the Ministry of Finance, and we have a committee that is also working on our behalf, I will appeal to your gracious office, Honorable Speaker, that we allow the LEC and Finance, while they carry on the discussion, including our committee, to be in the discussion or to get details from them with our committee and brief plenary properly. Because they are told that they are in discussion with Finance, and it is the same government they are in discussion with. So, Honorable Speaker, will buy that our committee be added with that discussion so that the committee can be able to brief in detail as to the whereabouts about the whole similar issue when it comes to the legislative issue. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
To consider our interpretation last budget hearing, it will be difficult for us because when you just capture the budget of the Labor Ministry and you see goods and services is 638,000, you will assume that all is well with the ministry. But honorable members, as we speak, we just go to Finance Minister requesting that he kindly communicate with you. Because since the execution of the 2019-2020 budget period, every month I will have to place a call at the Finance Ministry every time the budget of the contractors or the consultants is before the finance authorities. So we are asking that you kindly transfer the money for the consultants from goods and services. And this is on the basis of accountability. We are requesting that you kindly transfer the consultancy fees from other goods and services, which is in the tune of 579,360. The actual goods and services for the Labor Ministry is for the 2,666. For the 2,000. So we are asking that you kindly transfer, because you have the authority, take that money and place it on our consultancy, let goods and services be clear, so that if a non-crafter of the budget will just take the budget, that person will get to know that the goods and services for the Labor Ministry is actually for the 2,000 and not 600,000. We are asking that you kindly transfer that to basic salary. And before I conclude, Mr. Chairman, we are asking that you kindly, on the basis of our work, because we are also involved in revenue generation, We have performed, all the time, but we do not have support. So, yes, we are generating revenue. We are exercising our oversight at the level of the labor sector. So we are currently appealing that you try to look in that direction, if need be, to currently provide some support so that we will be more effective. But the key request is you currently transfer the consultancy to personal services, let it for 2000 BC as a clear amount for goods and services. Thank you, sir.
Even becoming dangerous to the issue against ratting.
Something he brought to our attention when we submitted the draft budget. So what I told him was I want to talk it over with the committee. I think it's important. Last year we
Committee 50.
Yeah, I think we did what? 25. And I think it was appreciated by the partners. So it's something that we need to look into, Chief.
For me, mine is like a caution and a verse. You see, what's happening now is everybody, some sector got their part to play when it comes to handling this issue. Take for instance, the immigration and the police, they were here yesterday and they have to address the security concern. But it has to do with your sector. What I would encourage you to do is to probably take the lead in getting to them with some action plans. Because if what they explained to us yesterday, and we have to take it seriously, is something like hugely affecting your sector. Take for instance, you guys go, the Nigerians and the Ghanaians, they go into these places, take guns, take the drugs, and allow the citizens themselves to do all of these things. So if you can come up with a plan, and then you go after them, yes, I have this to do, but with the security connotation, with the security component of it, can you please help me to do this? You will be doing the sector a very good job, Mr. Minister. So I would just want to encourage you to be the one going after them. Not just when they say, okay, because the police is not going in there, the immigration is not doing this, I think you should be on that back. Thank you.
Speaker, honourable members and the honourable members of the House. From LEC's own funding and with assistance from MCC and MCAL, we have developed 3 alternative training facilities within Liberia itself. So we've converted part of our premises at Mount Coffee to a training facility where we are actively carrying out training for our generation staff, and we will also be carrying out training for our T&D staff in that location. This has been a long-held desire of the management of LEC that we would use the facilities in Mount Coffee, which were constructed to facilitate the overall construction of the station, but which were in jeopardy actually of being demolished at one stage. That we would repurpose those to a greater purpose, and that greater purpose for us is to be our national training and test facility. Also, we have developed a relatively low cost but nonetheless functional training and briefing facility in Bushrod, where we are actively carrying out training at this moment in time. And because many of the specialists that we look for training are not able to come to country, the training is being done virtually through video link and video conferencing facilities that have been generously funded by MCC and MCAL. So we have 3 separate training facilities fully functional at this moment in time and providing training to a broad cross-section of our staff across all aspects of everything from customer services, customer service orientation, through to T&D, and we will also be including areas of commercial loss reduction and other aspects that are critical to the well-being and functioning of LEC. But that's currently being carried out in our Waterside facility, in our Bushrod facility, and also at Mount Coffee. So we already have, despite the absence of a training facility, we already are carrying out training in order to upskill all of our staff. And in fact, if you look back into 2019, at that stage we sent over 80 of our line staff to Nigeria for extensive training at that particular point in time. But I take the honourable member's point. There's no doubt that training in country is far better than training abroad, and that is what we are looking to do at this moment in time. So, in short, we have plans and programs to bring in additional meters, and yes, we do have a shortage of meters at this moment in time, but we still have some meters, and we are still in the communities connecting up customers. As I said, we've managed to connect up 20,000 customers, 15,000 in the donor project areas so far this year, and more through the works that we've carried out already through the use of the meters that we had available. In relation to the border areas and the cross-border areas, and other areas as well, and we know this is probably of interest to the Honourable House. We are currently working with the international consultants Deloitte, which is funded by USAID, looking to the possibilities and the opportunities for franchising certain of the of certain parts of Liberia as a whole, and we're working with them to see what opportunities are available and what the best mechanism would be to go to franchise, so that we would have distribution companies that would be not necessarily part of LEC but independent, and that would bring their own private equity to bear to invest in the greater Liberia as a whole, in particular the border areas of Maryland, Grangida, Kakata, Bomi, and other such areas. So we're currently working on the early parts of that, and we hope to have the first ventures forth in terms of going to market to see what the appetite for investment in Liberia is before the end of this year. I think, with the exception of sharing the details of my CV, which were shared with the government of Liberia previously, and show an extensive career starting almost 40 years ago in the utility business, where I started working for General Electric International as an international field technician. So I've worked on everything from gas turbines to the steam turbines, starting in my generation career. I have been involved in the construction of some of the largest transmission projects in Ireland and in other countries as well. I've been involved in all aspects of distribution and commercial activity, and before coming here I was one of those senior managers in ESB Networks, the distribution company that operates the distribution network in Ireland, and also a senior project manager for some of the largest projects, including the 400 million euro project involving the double underground cable circuits crossing the Cork Harbour, and the upgrading of the networks into the southern half of the country as a whole, all of which were delivered on time, on programme and on budget. Separate to that, my international career includes work in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Korea, Guyana, and the United States as well. So I've had an extensive international career and an extensive career in Ireland in the utility business. My learned colleague here, Sam, who I've known for almost 20 years, Sam?
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years, and we've soldiered together in other foreign parts as well. Sam is a Ugandan national, but also has huge experience in the utility business and has worked with me previously as a commercial manager on many other projects as well. So Sam has a huge depth of knowledge and experience, and I'm sure he can speak for himself should you wish to know the details of his personal CV. At a personal level, if I'm married, I have 3 children. Twins, a boy and a girl, who are now in their early 30s. I'm a grandfather as of this time last year, and I have 1 son in Canada, my daughter in the UK, and my other son is currently in Ireland, but has worked extensively. Yeah, well, it's important to know the whole of the individuals.
Surpluses do not reveal.
Yeah.
He was asked and let him just give
So,
we finish. Finish the government. We are done. We are done, Honorable. We are done. Honorable, all of these things, listen.
Education, health. But for the other sector, I don't think we can replace all of the individuals who retire. If you do that, then it means that you're not going to drop the competition.
No, not say replacement. No, I'm saying weighted on amount saved as a result of the retirement.
The thing was going to the awareness. Considering everything you are saying, but let's look at what we have on hand. The last time you were here, you talked about the financial situation that's stopping you from doing most of the work. And now you have a projection. I think we should be having also from your end, what will be generated. Thank God you say you're going to work on it. For everyone will be pushing yourself to get these logistics. We should also be convincing people with your figure what we're going to raise at the end of the day, right? But my concern again is getting these logistics and getting everything for people to work. What happened with the agents that are on the field? Because these inspectors go in the butchers to the various sites, allege they collect what they can collect, and even come and sit down in various shop and boast about it that once I go and tell my minister or with this person, whatever I said to them, I'll come back. And nothing will be done. Look at what they did with the involvement of what you said you all did a release along with the Internal Affairs Ministry for the superintendent to come in to help. And that process was being undermined seriously by your agents to the point they even took a complaint to Chief Zaza and other people, getting the people involved with all of that. But we got your stand on it because you stood your ground and you said whoever can help in the process, we all will need it because we need to save Liberia. But you not on the field, they are on the field. What can we put in place that even if we get a logistic, they're not still going to compromise the country interests? Thank you.
We have problems, yes. And let me just give you, Honorable, let me give you how we started it. Honorable, please. Let me give you what we said here. Honorable, we got order here. We have order here. Let me tell you exactly how it went. Everybody here gave their input. Honorable, please, man. Honorable, please. Yeah, please. Honorable, please take it back. So the issue here was that everybody gave their input, and everybody gave their concerns and everything else and spoke, and it was decided that when he intervened after the statement made by the Honorable, Mr. Berkeley, that because he said they were still discussing and have not concluded. No, with finance. With the stimulus package, they're still discussing and have not finalized. So to know exactly to what extent that is going, he said that Honorable Zamwe said that since it is the case, let us now empower the committee to work with LEC and finance so as to inform us. They will be speaking from an informed position Excuse me. So that was what was stated. And thereafter it was stated that when he now responded, because he responded in many ways, there was a loud response from him. Then he, Honorable Weblo, who gave a motion. So yes, so this is what was done. He's about to, after he speaks, then he will be giving a motion. Yeah.
But I think you have abbreviated the whole exercise in that it has not been concluded and they are in discussion. So it becomes prudent and legislative that the committee, the oversight committee, be updated by LEC as to the arrangement. Then we can be fully apprised of the information. The contrary will not be, good for us, for our consumption, because we are supposed to be the ones to articulate that which will serve our people's interest. Doing that, I think it will not be balanced. So if that's said, they can give some brief information as to what trends, that we expect, though not concluded. Then we can briefly, we can dismiss them, and we empower our committee to work with them, I would say, rigorously, so that we can be fully, informed, and that we talk from informed position. So I think that's the way to go as legislators.
$1 billion. So this is a sector that has.
So, Minister, since you're looking at how we can help to augment the budget envelope, now we are here discussing. You said you asked for $5 million, it was less than 3 million, less than 3 million. But the projected is $1 million out of that too. So,
For fiscal year 2021, we're projecting $21 million.
Assuming that you have $5 million, what will be the amount?
We have an increase. We likely because the increase. It's not that because it remains the same, but we have a transfer of. Because I didn't get it.
Also of the minimum wage. I don't know the status, and let me again say why I'm concerned about that. If you look at the decent white bill or bill or act, the fact that we have to set up minimum wage based on skilled and unskilled laborer for the purpose of taxation, most of the private institutions are not fairly disclosing the actual salary of the employees. So on the downside, it reduces the income tax, which should help to increase government revenues. But with the setting up of a minimum wage, the Revenue Authority will by default calculate the tax of a nerd in the private sector as per the regulation. Would not be bothered with relying on the honor declaration of the private sector person. So far, fairly, it is only the government, in clear terms, that is clear as to taxation, that the actual taxes are being paid, because most of, in fact, government payrolls are very clear from the civil service point of view, and the reportings are done. But if you look at the private sector, I have come from that background, especially being head of large tax at the LRA. And we realize that some of the money that are declared as the wages of the employee, if you look at the lifestyle of those employees, they don't commensurate. So that's why all we ask the question, if the LRA try to recharacterize the returns of the company, they may face resistance through the tax code or even the Board of Tax and Fee. That's why I keep saying that indeed we need to have the minimum wage goal so that we can create a minimum wage standard.
I have 1.7 million and I'm projecting 21 million. You're giving 5 million, you could use a small ratio or proportion, see that our contribution to the revenue envelope would improve.
About 100 million is good.
No, I didn't say 100 million.
Well, we're going to guesstimate now. Want something to 21, then 5 million as to.
No, we
100 million. If you say we should do that.
I don't use that direct proportionality.
Okay.
I don't use that direct proportionality, but I'm saying that factoring all of the modifying circumstances, I'm sure if you raise our allotment, I'm sure that we'll go over the 21 million.
Because conservative.
It'll be 20 million, because mind you, that only comes from what we say administrative fees, for royalties. Now, if you look at ArcelorMittal's MNG board, if you capture the revenue flow from those concessions in terms of the various taxes, the corporate income tax, the withholding tax, and all of that, you see that right now the Ministry of Finance has projected $40 million from the extractive sector, from mining. That could be raised to 70 or 100 million if we deploy resources wisely. We are to benefit immensely.
Colleagues, anybody has to be executed by us. So let the honorable gentleman from Nimba County.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, co-presiding distinguished colleagues. Mr. Speaker, when we met with this team, they made us to understand that they were in arrears to this government $6 million. Our question to them was, if you owe us as a government $6 million, why then should you accept $4 million for us as a debt? It's good that you do the math, and then you pay back to us $2 million. It says that to us. I want him to please respond to that. They owe the government of Liberia $6 million.
It should be more now.
All right?
And
then we were paying them $4 million. Our question to them, why? If you owe us $6 million, then why should we pay you $4 million? I thought you were supposed to be paying us $2 million. Thank you for that's the information I want to provide.
To LEC, the story with LEC is pathetic. LEC is supposed to be a revenue generating arm for the government. And to my realization, I think LEC is solely depending on grants and money from the Liberian government, but not raising revenue for value services. It is a disgrace. We continue to hear the same thing over and over. So my question to the management LEC, the CEO today is this. Sir, I'd like to know where you worked in the past before coming to LEC, and please let us know your achievements there. He said, I wouldn't about some new people now. You finish talking about time now, you So my question to you is this. The reason I'm saying this because sometimes we have to be very bold with what we want to get across. In Liberia, we believe that when expatriates come here, they are the best professional people that will come to liberate us, to give us services that we need.
They're supposed to.
But in this case, with LEC, to be specific, I have not seen where LEC management, the experts that we have brought here, I have not seen where you have served us adequately. Number one, the same complaint, no poles, no wire, no meter. It said that the system we are using, the industry does not produce these things anymore. Meters are not available around the world, wire not available around the world, pole not available around the world. What is the problem? Please tell us today your previous work and why we should continue to believe that you can change this around and give us the services that we need. Because the money is hanging right in the wires. This is why when it came to this floor one time to this plenary to pass laws to apprehend people for power theft, I think we're a little bit hysteric because there are poor people in this country that can afford $5 to pay monthly to have one light bulb and charge their phone. But you do not have the system to provide. And other sympathetic nations put their money forward to serve us, and you're squaffling the money here. You're not giving the services, but you want to crack down on Liberians that are entitled to those grants that came to Liberia. This is something we have to look at. Thank you, Speaker.
Logistical support.
What are your comments, queries?
I just got one
or observation.
Observation and a little comment. Okay. My observation is, I'm sure, Minister, you have been aware on the issue of this wage, the entire wage bill cap that has been set. I don't know whether you followed this discussion and for which it was a rationale to move these consultancy and contracts of that nature to goods and services. Now, if you did, I'm the conviction that's why this 511,000 is actually under goods and services. That is just a comment to know whether you are aware. The second issue I want to raise is the issue that that goes with the request that has been made by the minister in terms of revenue enhancement. Mr. Chair, we were considering the fact that all of the enhancement issues are going to be in a basket on the LRA.
Yes.
So again, I just thought to let the minister know that all of those are considered as a big revenue enhancement envelope. Those are the two comments I wanted to make.
Collect that I think you made similar intervention collectively. You know, I think on the LRA, but we didn't have any impact. So if you had any support to us, we will honestly appeal that if you had $10 for people on the home ministry, we didn't receive a dime from any entity.
We need to populate the field with some mine engineers and geologists who are around here and looking for employment. But the means are not there. In our first appearance, 2018, we asked for a budget of about $5 million. We received $2.3 million. The second budget cycle, we asked for a budget of $5 million. We received only $1.9. This fiscal term, we asked for a budget of the same $5 or $6 million.
Honourable Mr. Speaker, Honourable Co-Presiding Officer, and Honourable Members of the House. I have listened intently to all of the issues that were raised by the speakers. And there are many aspects, and I don't believe that I will be able to answer all of them here today at this moment in time. However, there are a number I think that I can speak to reasonably immediately. First of all, in relation to the mention of the $4 million for a stimulus package, the $4 million that was paid to LEC back in earlier part of this year was for outstanding debt by the government of Liberia and was not part of a stimulus package. I believe we have informed this House and other parties of that fact on a number of occasions previously. So the $4 million was $4 million which had already been due to LEC, and in fact when LEC was paid that money, we immediately used it to procure fuel and other essentials for the dry season which was upon us at that particular point in time. In relation to the actual matter of the stimulus package associated with the current situation, the COVID situation that we're currently in, the electricity portion of that has been capped at $900,000 US dollars, which is to be made available to LEC by the Ministry of Finance. And I understand that the Ministry of Finance is currently working out the logistics of making that funding available to LEC in the relatively short future. The finer details beyond that have yet to be fully ironed out. As my colleague Mr. Zimbe said, when the original conversation or discussion was had with the Ministry in relation to this stimulus package, it was specifically mentioned to be associated with existing LEC customers in the Greater Monrovia area. However, we note that other locations in the cross-border areas have also come on board, and naturally they will have to be accommodated in the overall disbursement. However, we are clear from government that the disbursement is capped at $900,000, so it will be spread accordingly to accommodate all of the customers.
Information. Let me provide information to this guy.
We all have the same pattern.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Deputy Speaker, fellow colleagues, all always saying the same thing. But let me add up some things. LEC today, Honorable Speaker, please listen. I think we the Liberian people, we need to go back to the old system. Because normal day, the Liberian were more than the foreigner in the LEC area. The people used to do the best thing, the right thing. But this time, the foreigners are more than the Liberian. And when they clear on your pole, your left pole, when they start playing with the meter, when you ask them, they get you cheat. So, as I'm standing here now, I am telling the Liberian government, the president for this nation, to see reason, let the Liberian people take over the LEC for now. So we can try it for 1 or 2 years. You will see how best it will be. Because the Liberian will be sorry for their friend Liberian than the foreigners. I thank you.
Colleagues, having gone through this important issue, the one that brought us around our revenue generation, one of the major sectors, I move, if I can obtain a second, that in the first place, the minister be made to provide this body a roadmap, clearly projecting the revenue generation, where you think we can get the resources from. And I will want that roadmap to be sent to 3 committees. The Committee on Mines and Energy, the Committee on Ways, Means and Finance, and our committee on, the Special Committee on Economic Recovery, if I can obtain a second.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes.
September 15, 2020. The Honorable Minister, Minister of Mines and Energy, Capitol Hill, Monrovia, Liberia. Dear Honorable Minister, I present compliments and have the honor to write by directive of the Honorable House of Representatives in section to reschedule your appearance before it on Wednesday, September 16, 2020 at 12 noon. The august body has further instructed me to acknowledge the appearance of your proxy, but wants me to inform you that its concerns have to do with you and we expect nothing less than your appearance. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your prompt attention. Sincerely, Major NCO Chief Clerk, House of Representatives. Prior to that, a letter was sent that he didn't come to yesterday that gave the purpose of his coming. Thank you, sir.
They will know. But the letter yesterday only indicated that 3 persons were coming instead of you. No reason why. You understand? So please work with us. We want effective communication to allow us to do our work appropriately. Against this backdrop, I would say that thank you again for coming, and you are respectfully discharged.
Mr. Speaker, co-presiding distinguished colleagues. To the CEO, I think when after the government gave them this identical money, they are planning to also sit with them to actually find out when they will commence implementation. I'm surprised that he is saying today that they are still planning with the Ministry of Finance to see how best they can start implementation. But the CEO, did you not tell the committee that this identical money was an arrear paid by government to you? When we met you people over and over, I think 2 different times.
2 sister towns are fighting over a creek where the citizens of that particular area are getting water to drink. The water is called Mount between Montfort and Gwanjare. Who did we meet there? Everybody that met them on that water, they were non-citizens. They didn't have license. Up to now, the commissioner has charged the 2 sister towns 20,000 each to pay fine because they were having conflict. And I called there because there's a network there. I called them under no circumstances with anybody mount on the mount on that water called Mount. The people fishing there, they drink the water. People making farms along that river. So some of the problem, Mr. Speaker and fellow colleagues, is the people that work with you called money agents. They cause most of the problems.
Yes.
They go and say, go there and have, I just want to go inspect. When they go after 1 or 2 months, they give some money to them, they continue to do what they're doing. So you have to also put a mechanism into motion where people who are called money agents are really those people who they call agents that must be nationalistic. And by extension, give us some authority too, that when we go for vacation, we have those leaflets in our hand, we say, look, you're not supposed to be here. This is what your ministry say. So your money agents are causing too much problem. Some of the money agents, they kind of hustle the bill in the time, you can't believe it. Because the money is not coming to the government. In my community, there's a guy called assistant minister. I don't know what kind of job he's doing in that place. It may have taken 3 months to build 3-story building. So we got to check on these things. And every day our name is in the mouth of the people. We're not doing nothing. So this is the issue. Your own money agents.
The money is better, you got focus.
So this is the issue. So I'm going to write a letter there today to make sure they stop that play. I was saying CC copy until there's a law placed on the books or there are cars. I mean, you don't have enough money that have been the old story. That you don't have mobility, you don't have this and that. Even when you are to have mobility, those you send in the field are not bringing money to the Liberian government. They're pocketing the money. They're pocketing the money. Something got to be done. Something got to be done to stop this kind of thing, Mr. Minister. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, local presiding, distinguished colleagues, having had an engaging discourse with the senior management of LEC, in which questions were posed, observations were made, responses were given, knowing that the executive branch under which the LEC works and the legislative branch are to work in collaboration and coordination so that the engagements are not only prompted by missteps, but rather are driven by the need to ensure that the agencies are performing adequately under the oversight responsibilities of the legislature. Having understood that the LEC is engaged with the Finance Ministry, specifically as it relates to the stimulus package that was approved some time ago by this legislature, I move, if I can obtain a second, that as the engagement with the Finance Ministry is ongoing, that this House mandates its Committee on Public Utilities to meet along with the LEC and the Minister of Finance so as to clearly understand and give us a full briefing in terms of the status of the stimulus package and the overall performance of the LEC. If I can obtain a second.
Co-presiding, distinguished colleagues. From the testimony of the witness, there is something shocking. Is LEC saying to us that they have not started, they haven't commenced the implementation of the stimulus package? That's one. The second thing is, in the assertion of the CEO, I did hear him say there is an MOU between the LEC and the Ministry of Finance. Mr. Speaker, we will demand, not request, but we demand a copy of that MOU and why it is coming. We would like to know the content of the MOU from the CEO.
Also say that some of the steps taken, I want to first laud you for the good work, but some of them too are anonymous. I mean, they are not. They have some anomalies. They have some mistakes too. Firstly, you cannot have, as in register, you cannot have volunteers. Volunteerism is to have pay. You understand? I mean, the term to be a volunteer is to work charitably. You don't expect pay. So, I mean, that nomenclature attached to such a kind of quality of work, I think is also an anomaly, except it's a new normal, where everybody will say, I'm a volunteer and volunteer won't pay. So basically, we're going to depart from that. Yes, it is right that even with what you have, we need a revision of our laws. And I think we have the committee here, Economic Recovery Committee, because we have problems with the various sectors. Yes, I mean, there have been under-appreciation as to what we attract from most of our sectors. We rightly stated the mining. Someone was telling me that even during the Chancellor time, when there was not an organized structure, mining was funding the government. Now we have a structure. So I think mining is supposed to do more, logging is supposed to do more. So I was surprised that even logging is not getting us anywhere. So our economic recovery team, feel that there should be working visits. Because if we will be proud and rely on the expertise we have and the laws and quality of laws that we usually enact here, void of, what is contemporary, then it will take us nowhere. As you rightly stated, things have changed. So we must also adapt the speed of change. We got to work with the speed of change. We have, sometimes we have discussion amongst people. You have Botswana. Botswana has good laws. I mean, you can, and then diamonds and gold are quality things. Somebody who can plant banana and afford banana is one who you can say, yes, he belongs to that sector of banana planting. Somebody who will get 150 and bring diamonds and cannot afford to wear diamonds
then it's something else. In fact, we have to balance the conversation. China is far away from here. Where does China know Bokan Jide? A Liberian man or Liberian woman, brother person here. So we should adopt a sense of conscious culture to know what we want. We must also change our laws. Our laws are not serving us. Yeah, the laws are not serving us. Even so many things can happen. Liberia with $500 million that will depend on to run this country, it will take us nowhere. It will take us nowhere. I mean, and I hear many times people say how rich Liberia is. Even our quote-unquote partners that come and we say rely on them for assistance, they say Liberia is rich. You know, but the laws that some of them superintend do not satisfy the condition to make us to live in the way and manner they describe us. You know, they say, well, you like Japan, you see what Japan is. Is that true? Maybe if it was Japan, then maybe it didn't come to us, but it went to them. We have to be able to clean our lenses to see how we can look carefully. So I would say here that we should not be afraid of genuine optimism and success. The laws that we have, let's look at them. Well, some of what we have there are in other countries and they are doing the same business. How they are successful, we can go there and learn it. It will even be easier to adapt those approaches that we're sitting down here and we're doing the same thing over and over and again. It's rewinding. For instance, we talk about telecommunications, yes. Luxembourg, 100% state-owned. It makes money, you know. And we see even the telecommunication sector here, how we are a little bit affected. Telecommunications like breeding. So again, elevate what we make here. The logging area in Germany has surpassed the world in terms of managing its forest area and logging. Germany has about $170 billion a year and employ 1.2 million persons in the sector. So why don't we adapt what is in Germany? Australia has good mining laws. So we have to be able to look at what can help us so that we can survive. And we urge you to work with the economic recovery team so that we want to see a budget will be in the billions. I mean, it's no doubt, there's no joke. We want to see budget of Liberia in the billions. One structure can cost $1 billion. One bridge can cost $1 billion. You know, sometimes. So why can't we have these kinds of measures in place so that we will grow successfully? So we want to applaud you for your coming. We'll give you time to respond. However, we need to change our laws. There's a need for revision. You know, the what we get from the diamonds area, we cannot be allowing children to wear adult shoes. They will fall. I mean, how can you send somebody who doesn't have the expertise and understanding of the quality of diamond and gold? The person gave you $150 to go in the area to go and find diamond and gold. You get it, you give it out. You know, so it's two ways. We can fund, and we must fund the institution. At the same time, you must be able to put a quality of workers in the various counties. Sometimes we go in the county, we don't know Lands and Mines representative. When I was a little boy coming up in school, when you see a Lands and Mines, no, they used to call them, they had different names. Yeah, county head of mining. That person was qualified to even become a minister. I knew a fellow called Brahms in Maryland County. See, the people have area that are well structured. So we don't see it now. Even if you have, presence or command presence, that when you reach and start to talk to people, they must value you, they must respect you, and yield to some of your interventions. So, also what will help us, I think it will be wise that the Lands and Mines Ministry serve each and every one of the various members here as to who are those that are legally authorized to carry on mining in the various areas. we must know in the category of mining that should happen. So each lawmaker here will have it and be armed. When you go in your district and you see somebody who's supposed to get B and they will C, or D and with F, you'll be able to intervene. If dredging is not authorized, they can put a cut to it. You know, they can call town hall meeting and have conferences with their people. So these things are appropriate and they can help us. But the laws that we have, even the royalty or the amount we take from these extractive materials, they're not helping us. As some of them said, 3% or something that comes out of it, I don't know, it's relatively nothing. So let us see what's happening around the world and how we can, you know, benefit too. So we don't even need the amount of people that come to go into our areas. Let us vet them. Let us vet them. Also, even the quality of workers that you also have, I would even stress that there must be some psychological tests. You know, a criminal background investigation, so that we know exactly who we put in those areas. That value, that money. So let us change the paradigm so that we can get what we deserve. However, we want you to conclude on this matter, and the colleagues, our colleagues will, you know, raise a motion to decide exactly what comes next. So,
Mr. Speaker, co-presiding, distinguished colleagues, I'm interested in what the CEO was just saying, because he said the stimulus package, while it is true that they are working with the Ministry of Finance, I don't know whether they plan that they have or they have formulated maybe in the quote-unquote MOU, it took into account the rest of the country in Liberia, specifically Nimba County, where we have also the electricity that we ourselves should benefit from. Thank you.
We are now at the phase of the motion. But we want to encourage LEC and to have a system that will bring about lighting in the major streets, even around the Capitol building, because at night I have tried to come around sometimes in the night to look at the view of the city, and I think LEC needs to do more in Monrovia as it is and other areas, because it prevents crime. So we encourage LEC. Thank you. We encourage, please put your mask on to talk. Please put your mask on to talk. So we want to encourage LEC to help the communities, so that the security aspect that has to do with that that intervention on your part will be addressed. So the motion will come, but the committee will have to work with you and inform us about the issue. With the counties and other areas that have these problems, we also want you to make frequent interventions so that our people may be adequately served, because it's important. The Malayan challenge, yes, is a good thing, but it should be a blessing to all of us. So with that said, Honorable Gweglo, you are duly recognized.
Witnesses to come always and explain to us anyway, let us know their constraints. The Speaker will have a budget before us. The Minister just told us that he may be requesting for $5 million. Some of the problems that they have faced in the past is like they've been having low budgetary support. we need to play our part, Mr. Speaker. That the Liberian people too will be looking at us that tomorrow when we send from this minister, when we say we gave you this amount, this is what you requested for, we gave it to you. What's your performance report? Why this problem continue to exist? I think, Mr. Speaker, we should be challenged now to start taking those decisions and giving the needed ministry and agency that will create more revenue for us. Let's start giving them that support, Mr. Speaker. So I just hope that we can look into it too, as a body that is responsible for the appropriation of all this that will bring out revenue. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen of the House.
Speaker, Mr. Co-Presiding colleagues, mine is not actually directed at the management team, but how did we get here? We are addressing the top management team of the Liberia Electricity Corporation. And just by taking a fleeting glance, I'm noticing that even the first two persons that are here, the Liberians are not among them. Because all of the things we're talking about will not yield fruits if we don't put our house in order. As our committee is working on this, can they brief us what is happening? Are we outsourcing? So all those stuff, that's what I want to know, because that's the only way I can intelligently take by hand a discussion that has to do with. Because I think we run a risk of not having jurisdiction over these people because they are Caucasians and some of them are not Liberians.
Well, maybe that should be written down for me.
Well, you did that before. I mean, you haven't been here for a long time.
Yes, for a long time. So, apparently the COVID impact has led to some memory loss. But, Honorable Speaker, I sincerely apologize for my inability to attend yesterday. As you know, operate the government we have 3 branches, which are distinct but yet coordinate. And so we have lots of engagements, some of them international, some of them local. For instance, yesterday I had a pre-engaged schedule with the World Bank and other donors, very, very large group, called the World Bank Group Working Team, looking at the transition plan of the LEC, and how we can make the LEC become a more commercially viable power utility. As we know, the LEC has a very, very great mandate to electrify the entire country. So, and that's one reason why I could attend. I also had a previous engagement to address the plenary of the African Mining Vision Conference, which seeks to harmonize mining regimes across Africa. So for those reasons, I could not attend. So I apologize again. That's why I sent my 2 principal lieutenants who have ground experience, who are the major players in monitoring field activities, in persons of the Deputy Minister for Operations, Honorable Emmanuel Sherman, and the Assistant Minister for Mines, Honorable Emmanuel Titi Swart. They have the working knowledge of everything that is obtaining in the field. So that's why, in my absence, I accepted the process from me. But I'm here, and I read the letter, and I saw the content which relates to illegal mining in River Sis.
Yeah. The river system throughout the Republic.
Yes. So that is not unique to River Sis. Illicit mining is pervasive across the country. And the reason why it is so, Liberia is endowed with a lot of mineral resources. Mining is taking place in all of our 15 colonies. And it is both a curse and a blessing. A curse in the sense that uncontrolled mining can lead to a lot of environmental problems, land degradation, pollution of waterways, destruction of our wildlife diversity, and lots of other negative impacts. So that is the curse. The blessing is that if we work together collectively as Liberians, as sincere citizens, we can turn the curse into blessings. But what do I mean by that? We need effective coordination efforts among the executive and the legislative branches of government to achieve success. The other day, I was invited to the Senate to address the same issue. And Honorable Speaker, if it pleases you, I could also give you a copy of what I presented to the legislature, to the Senate. It's the same thing. The first thing, if you look at our border control, it is stated that we have about 170 border crossing points. Out of those, only 40 are manned, meaning that about 70% of our border posts are open to illegal entry by West African migrants. So border control is a serious problem. We have 350 miles of coastline that we're not capable of properly monitoring. West African migrants can enter into the country through inconspicuous border crossing points. So that's why I talk about collective efforts in addressing these systemic problems. So we're working along with other enforcement agencies. The Ministry of Mines and Energy is like a regulator, administrator. It's a policy arm of the mineral sector. The enforcement of laws is with the Ministry of Justice, by extension, to the National Police Force, and the Liberia Immigration Service, and perhaps also the NSA. So right now, working in concert to see how we can curtail or mitigate this curse of illicit mining. We've been having a number of meetings. I and the Honorable Minister of Internal Affairs, Honorable Bani Sarif, had a meeting before the onslaught of the COVID-19. We had a meeting with 13 superintendents to see how we can collectively deploy our efforts to ensure a pushback of this curse. In that meeting, for short, it was resolved that by February ending this year, there should be no trash on any of our water bodies. However, COVID-19, we began to make progress, but COVID-19 has re-escalated the use of dredges. Now, mind you, there's nowhere in our mining law that says we've been giving licenses to people to do dredge mining. No. Dredge mining is completely illegal. I've taken the appropriate administrative action. We released, we had a press release to the effect saying that the use of dredge is banned. Honorable Speaker, it's unfortunate that local community dwellers who should be the first watchdogs to drive away the, I will call, mining dissidents from our mining fields, or to the contrary, allegedly welcoming illicit miners, including Ghanaians, Malians, Burkinabes, and Chinese. So, we implore the legislature to also engage with these communities, to see the wisdom not to welcome illicit operators into their communities, into their villages. So, it is further alleged that some local government officials are not very, very helpful in enforcing these bandits because of alleged kickbacks. So these are some of the reports we get from the field. I'm not saying that the Ministry of Mines and Energy is operating a perfect system, but there are other, external problems that are impacting on the effective enforcement of the mining law and regulations. So we have to work together to ensure that the laws that we issue are fully implemented. So we are not an enforcement agency, let me iterate. We depend on the Ministry of Justice and perhaps even the National Army in Nigeria and in Ghana lately. The Ghanaian government deployed its military to rid its field of illicit miners. And that generated...
Honourable Minister, I think almost like what was stated.
I just want to have this reinforced information to Mr. Bentley and his, have you received the $4 million package? Have you received it? That's what I just want to know. When you come, you can answer.
You will answer when you.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable ladies and gentlemen of this august body. Honorable Speaker, we would like to say a big thank you for ensuring that we have the CEO of the LEC here with us today. But I will come in as an advice to this body that the LEC these few days are trying, the management is trying to ensure that they do things better, so by January they will come to us here to renew the ESBI contract. I have been working with them and these people are very disrespectful. Honorable Speaker, I want you to take a glance at what is happening. The LEC takes one transformer from one side and switches it to the other side. They take it from this other side, they carry it to the other side. If these people are serious, we have customers in this country that can give the LEC $1 million per month. More than that, the LEC refuses to bring in meters and those attached accessories to their grid for people to pay for them and receive electricity. The LEC, the ESBI setting, like you just said, we should not be xenophobic. But how can foreigners make more money than the Liberian technicians here? It is wrong. I am appealing to this house that we should ensure that we do not retain the ESBI management team because they don't mean well for the Liberian people. The Liberian people are suffering. The people need electricity and LEC is not doing what they are supposed to be doing to supply electricity. We talk with them, we call them to conferences, pocket meetings, and whatsoever it is, they still refuse to do what they are supposed to be doing. They are depending on this United Nation or whatsoever nation funding that is coming to us, you know, through their grid that is stifling us and twisting our arms to accept their contracts. I am appealing to the 73 persons, the 73 men of this house, the 73 representatives, to make sure that we scrutinize the contract these people signed with the Liberian people. They have not fulfilled one part of the contract. One. These people are supposed to be having a school now in this country for our technicians, our electricity technicians, our electrical technicians. Up to now, that has not been done. They must do A, B, C, D. And then they have a sub-Liberian here who is pushing them, and he is boasting that he is coming back to us here, Muni Captain, and he will compel us to sign and have the ESBI on board. I am appealing to you people that our people will see us as gluttons if we do not do the work for the people. ESBI must go out. Thank you very much.
Yes, to speak to the matter, you're absolutely correct, Honourable Representative, that LEC does indeed owe Liberia, the Liberia Revenue Authority, in and around $6 million US. And also, there's a debt owed to Côte d'Ivoire, a sizable debt owed to Côte d'Ivoire as well for energy. The unfortunate truth of the matter is that the revenue that LEC currently generates does not meet the full expenditure that LEC currently has. That is an unfortunate truth. And in fact, even if we could reduce the commercial losses completely at this moment in time, it still wouldn't meet the exact outgoings that LEC has. But there is a plan in place. We have a 5-year business plan which addresses this, which has been approved by the board of LEC, and I believe it's been shared widely in relation to it. And it shows us transitioning LEC from the level of dependence that it currently has to not only being a self-funding organisation, but also to paying down its outstanding debts to the government of Liberia. So this is all clearly mapped out over the next 5 years. During which time I don't believe that ESBI will be here, but we would like to put LEC on a good footing for the Liberian management to be able to continue with the good work to recovering LEC to a state of strong financial fortitude, so that it becomes an engine of the economy. So we believe that that's very possible. This business plan that we have and that we have shared with the donor community and with government of Liberia, and which has been approved by the LEC board, calls for $112 million US of investment in LEC, and also calls for $25 million in day-to-day working capital in order to fund the activities that many of the younger gentlemen are seeking to see in action on the ground, and which we are very desirous of ourselves. It is critical for LEC to have working capital in order to carry on the day-to-day activities of the business. It's a source of great regret to me, and I think to our entire management team, that we are not in a position to replace transformers as and when they fail. In fact, when back in 2018, when we started recording these events, at that stage, a survey of the system indicated that we had over 200 transformers off the system at that particular point in time. And then, very much thanks to self-funding, over $1 million of funding which we managed to put together ourselves, thanks to His Excellency President George Weah, and also thanks to MCC, MCAL, we've been able to replace 160 of those transformers on the system. Unfortunately, in the same period of time, we also have transformers that are overloaded across Monrovia as a whole, and many of these transformers have failed in the interim. So at this point in time today, we have 112 transformers that are blown off the system. However, you will probably have heard on the radio His Excellency, or His Excellency's spokesman, mentioning the fact of His Excellency President Weah's transformer replacement program. So he has graciously agreed to provide funding to LEC to assist LEC with the replacement of those transformers. So at the moment, LEC is in the process of procuring transformers from a number of vendors, and we hope to have the first of those deliveries coming through within the next 3 to 4 weeks. And we have a program developed, assuming that funding is available and in place, that will see us having replaced all of the transformers by the beginning of 2021. And all communities who are currently without a transformer will be returned to having a transformer in their communities. Now, of the 112 transformers that are blown, we know that it's going to take about 160 transformers to actually replace those, because many of the transformers that blew because they were heavily overloaded. And in that package, there's also a provision for additional meters as well, which we are looking to procure. So at the moment, we're waiting for 15,000 meters, which are being provided courtesy of KFW. And we're waiting for another 10,000 meters, which will be brought in as part of the procurement process associated with the transformers. So this will put LEC in good stead in relation to being able to give customers an individual meter in their individual home, and improve the way that we can respond to queries and requests for meters. Let me see here, sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on here. In relation to the Liberianization of the management team, I'm pleased to announce actually that at this moment in time, the Liberian half of our team is also in this Honourable House, but in a different meeting to talk about the budget arrangements. And in fact, they were here yesterday for this meeting, but I understand that you were specifically looking for me personally, the CEO, to attend. So therefore, I am here today in their stead. Had they been speaking, they would equally have told you the same story in relation to the situation that we currently have. Many of LEC's challenges go back to a shortage of available working capital. And we are indeed reliant on donor funding for many activities. However, the donors are not funding our day-to-day activities. All donor activity is associated with donor projects, so LEC AF and so on, being funded by the World Bank and other funding of that nature. I can tell you that at this moment in time, as of today, Sam, I think we have something in the region of 15,000 additional customers connected in Monrovia through those donor projects. And that's a massive increase on the number of customers previously connected here in Monrovia. In fact, during this year so far, we've connected and reconnected more than 20,000 customers to the LEC system through the replacement of transformers, the normalization of metering arrangements, and through the donor projects. And we are continuing to power forward with the donor projects, and expect to hit probably somewhere in the region of 20,000 new connections through the donor projects before the end of the year. It is true to say that the war on commercial losses is a difficult one. And we are most grateful to His Excellency and this House for passing the Power Theft Act, which we must be honest and say that it hasn't been fully exploited today, but I suppose reinvigorated by the words of this House, I think we will go forward and seek to use the tools that are presented to us in a much more robust fashion through the Power Theft Act, and to see if we can address power theft in that way. However, we also believe that many of the people in Liberia who are stealing power are stealing so because they feel they have no alternative. And we believe that the secret to resolving that issue is to, well, more than a meter, Honourable Sir, it requires, a meter is actually just the end point of it. Typically it also requires a transformer, because many of the transformers are overloaded. It requires extensions to our 22 kV network. And at this moment in time, it also requires that stations like Congo Town, which we will see constructed or finished commissioning in the middle of next year, Gardnersville, which we hope to see commissioned and functional before the end of this year. We need those stations to be completed so that we have the adequate power in the system, that we can actually extend the system to be able to connect those added customers in those areas. So, yes, LEC has been remiss or slow, perhaps, in responding to demands of the community. But yes, it is also moving forward at a pace now. And we will see, and you will see, a significant change in the number of customers that are connected to LEC. There was also mention, by the way, of a training school that was to be built at Bushrod. And yes, it's a source of great disappointment to us that the training facility at Bushrod was not actually constructed. However, this was a training facility that was to be funded by donors. And it was felt by the donors that the school could not be built within the timeline and budget that they had initially envisaged, so the project was cancelled. That said, we, off of our own data with meagre funding that we have, and thanks to MCC and MCAL, we have developed...
Source of correction, please.
That was
and it's been 9 on the St. John River. There are a lot of Ghanaians and other people there money in the river. And according to information I got from citizens from that end, they said you gave them C certificate to man them. My question here is that what is the specific money activity of C certificate? And if someone should go beyond the required activities, what the citizen there should be able to do so as to protect themselves, and because most of our people use the St. John water for a lot of purposes, and they are using mercury drug and other things in the water according to what we heard when you gave them C certificate. So I would just want you to explain to me in detail what is the activity of C certificate, and if you will not abide by those activities, what is the next action that either the citizen, because police are not all over these days, what action can be taken? Honorable Speaker, presiding officer, members of the House of Representatives, it's my humble appeal that we need to appeal to ourselves. We need to appeal to our youth. Now, poverty should not be an excuse. When we try to enforce the law, they say, well, what do we eat? How is going to return to school? The people are illegal, but yeah, the building, they're giving us hand pump, they have a small school. That's what it does. But even more so, we have been threatened on many occasions. There have been several incidents where some of our field agents were attacked with machetes. I can show you graphic photos of the injuries. With stone throwing illegal miners. So we cannot kill in line with their hands. We need to implement both soft and hardware. Honorable Speaker.
September 15, 2020, the Chief Executive Officer, Liberia Electricity Corporation, Waterside, Monrovia, Liberia. Dear Honorable Chief Executive Officer, I present compliments and I be honored by the Director of the Honorable House of Representatives in section to write and inform you of its recent communication to you dated September 10, 2020 to give the status of the implementation of Count 4, Section 3 of the Legislative Joint Resolution number 002-2020 on the stimulus package using Nimba County District 2 as a case study. To this citation, the August body is disappointed due to your failure to attend but chose to send a proceed. In view of the foregoing, I am again directed by plenary to invite you proper to a section on Wednesday, September 16, 2020 at 11 a.m. to give your input regarding what is stated above. Kind regards, sincerely yours, Major NCO Chief Clerk. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Co-Presiding, honorable ladies and gentlemen, I was agreeing on the communication sent to LEC Chief Executive Officer to appear here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Deputy Chief Clerk. Esteemed colleagues, this is a communication sent to the CEO of LEC. With that said, we want the team of LEC to rise and introduce themselves, and then take the oath, and then we go into the process.
The question that I have is in relation to Broadville and Virginia. In fact, if you pass the site of the Virginia substation, you will see that there is quite a bit of activity in the Virginia substation, and we are progressing with the construction of Virginia substation very, very rapidly. In fact, one might say that the contracts that were originally laid, which were way back in many years ago in 2016 or something, for these projects were not in the correct sequence. So the correct sequencing of the contracts would have seen the substations built first of all, and the transmission lines to those built first of all, and then the distribution networks in Broadville and other locations should then have followed on. But it's the nature of the way that the contracts were executed at the time that the distribution contract preceded the construction of the station in Virginia. And unfortunately, the networks in Broadville and other locations could not have been energized until such time as the station in Virginia was completed and energized, because there just wasn't adequate power, and it was too far away from the other near stations, which would have been probably Bushrod, I would believe. However, the construction of the transmission line from Bushrod to Virginia and the construction of the station in Virginia is moving ahead at a pace, and we expect to have that completed. I don't have an exact date because I don't have my schedule here with me, but I believe somewhere in the middle of next year. And then the distribution network can be fully connected to the system at that particular point in time. In relation to the electrification of Montserrado County as a whole, Montserrado County is a very large county with a very large population. It effectively encompasses, I suppose, the vast majority of the population of Liberia in a very compact area. My understanding from discussions with the different ministerial departments is that the estimated number of people living in Monrovia itself is probably somewhere in the region of about 2 million people living in Monrovia itself, just Monrovia. That translates to approximately 400,000 individual potential electricity connections not just for electricity connections, of course, but also water connections and other facilities as well. The corporate projects that are in hand by under the donor projects will see somewhere in the region of 150,000 customers connected by the end of 2022, and at that particular point in time, and we are currently negotiating with the World Bank the follow-on projects, which will be due to start in and around that, to see the remainder of the greater Montserrado area electrified. The other question then was asked in relation to the longevity of our particular contract, and it is true that our contract expires actually in January of next year. Our ambition has always been to set up the contracts and the financing so that after we leave, that the new management taking over will be in a position to have financing available that we didn't have when we got here, and also the structure and capabilities to be able to deliver the projects. We are working very hard and diligently to get that financing in place and to have those agreements with the various donors in particular to support those projects. So most of the donor projects are due to finish either at the end of 2021 or the end of 2022. And we are looking to secure funding for new projects, new funding for LEC to support the further and deeper electrification of Liberia as a whole. As I mentioned,
Sadi at the House of Representatives. Sadi, if you want to stress, then you can just put the excuse for the day. You can give me that day off. Yeah? Yeah, if you are. So can you usher in the visitors, Eve, the Managing Director of LEC, and those just on Eve.
The mines minister.
No, they're not coming together. LEC.
LEC, bro, all the people sort of come.
Where are you from?
There was something they call CUF, custom usual fees. And the custom usual fee that was imposed by the customs was regulated that if you pay duty, that specific fees go to the custom, the revenue department to enhance the operational activities of that area to avoid too much of bureaucracy or budgetary requisition. I think a sector like the mining sector in Liberia, most especially when you talk about natural resources, is a global opportunity given to a particular given nation. So in order to revamp that sector, to ensure that government adequately focus on the issue of implementation and getting dividend from that sector, we need to observe the tariff of the Republic of Liberia. We need to look at it keenly. And besides the sector that we're talking about, we also need to, I think, increase the fees of a money claim. Because you're talking about claim is 150 per claim, right? So, if for instance, a merchant, Lebanese merchant, or any other person come with vested interest that have more money than a Liberian can use somebody to buy more than 150 claims, which Liberian cannot easily afford. They're exploiting the economy of the states. So I think we need to look into that direction. We look at the revenue and fund our laws, and we also look at the tariff to see to it that if a particular ministry raising or generating of funds, there should be exclusive funding set aside in that law that they should use as an operational fund, because going to Ministry of Finance, it also create problem. It delay the process. So when we look in that direction, Mr. Presiding, I think our industry, mining sector will improve. So what the issue that you talk about, Minister, you were there and you agreed that you're going to make sure to perform your duty. So if whosoever went there that they are there, not get on payroll, they say equal work for equal pay. Their operation is illegal. And you should be able to say, well, we're putting these people now because we don't have money to pay them. But you have the man on the field, then you encourage him to corrupt the system. Thank you very much.
Give us the position of LEC as relates to the communication.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Honourable Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, and members of the House. I'm delighted to be able to update the House on the current position regarding the package. Currently, LEC is working closely with the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning in order to finalise arrangements in relation to this package of stimulus for Liberia. Final details have not actually been thrashed out as of yet, although we do have a memorandum of understanding between the two parties. That has specified certain stipulations on both sides, and we are working to those, obviously. We are awaiting, I suppose, further clarity from Ministry of Finance at this moment in time, and there is a fund available in the amount of $900,000 which will be the total value of the disbursement that will be made to fund these Government of Liberia funded electricity tokens for the people. So that's probably as far as I can enlighten the House at this moment in time in relation to how far developed that is. Perhaps my colleague, Mr. Zimbe, may be able to enlighten you somewhat further in terms of...
Honourable Mr. Speaker, honourable members of the House.
You can have your seat, Mr. President.
Thank you. As the CEO has stated, we have been in discussion with the Ministry of Finance, and we've agreed terms and the criteria for distribution of the electricity tokens. The criteria, in brief, takes account of customers on our database in Monrovia. We have shared a methodology, and that methodology is along the lines that the distribution will be through our outlets. We shall use our current distributor to distribute the upgrade tokens, and we have a value per household. There's a criteria for eligible customers, and that has been incorporated in what we shall be sending out as an announcement to the public once we are confident that we can start distribution of the tokens. The $900,000 the CEO referred to shall be applied until depleted to the customer base we have. And the methodology for that has been agreed. There is an issue now with the cross-border areas, including Nimba, and we're in discussion with the Ministry of Finance to see how distribution of the tokens can be implemented in those cross-border areas. That is what I have to say, Mr. Speaker.
To the Honourable Minister, I want to know who gave them the paper before they go do the money. Here the money, yes, I want to know. And also you got to put everything in place, because about my district, the agent they are on the fee, they accept money. I don't know whether they can report to you every month or every week, because they lay a money paper down and they accept doing the job. So I think you have to call a meeting so you can talk to them what they're supposed to do and what they are not supposed to do. Because they made the citizens, some of them getting first, they want to react, they want to do this. So that's it.
Chair and honourable members of the House. I will attempt to answer the questions that you have posed. In relation to the...
Colleagues, let us listen so we know exactly what we're here for. And we'll get full picture of the issue. Honourable, please. Yeah, entertainment is unwarranted here now, please.
Let me conclude. If we get the chance to get a response to what was said, then means that it will give you the same question will ask another question. So say you said,
you cannot be tempted to ask questions. No. When they have intention already,
Come forward. Witnesses, you raise your right hand. Place your left hand on this Bible. Repeat after me. You call your names and your position towards in that entity. I,
Pascal Buckley,
do solemnly swear
that
the testimony I'm about to give as it relates to the hearing will be the truth. Nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I didn't hear you talking, so you repeat. Raise your right hand. Place your left hand. Repeat after me. Call your name. I,
Samuel Zimbe,
do solemnly swear that the testimony I'm about to give, as it relates to this hearing, will be the truth.
Should be the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you very much. All those concerns and advice that have been given. Proceed.
Yes, and all of those concerns are quite genuine indeed, quite legitimate.
So, order, Mr. Minister, then you said, to respond, you said the Speaker, the co-presiding officer, a member.
Oh, something rather. Speaker,
please.
The Speaker. Co-presiding officer. And member of the House. Members. Okay. So I will commit this to memory, Honorable Speaker. So the Speaker, co-presiding officer, and honorable members of the House of Representatives. So I listened keenly to the thoughts that have been issued to us, which we should address. The honorable representative has concerns regarding economic losses, which is quite genuine. We regard the ASM subsector as a low-hanging fruit in terms of revenue generation. If we formalize the ASM sector to the extent that miners are organized, perhaps in the cooperatives, and they have environmental responsibilities, and they also are paying taxes to government, I think we will have greater returns. Now, mind you, the mining law was enacted, the new Minerals and Mining Law was enacted in 2000. That's 20 years ago. 20 years ago. there have been profound changes in the mining environment. So currently we now revising that law with assistance from some of our international partners. The German, how do you call it, German? The GRZ. They're helping us to revise this law. We have to bring this law up to speed with current day reality. So that is what we're trying to do. We have 3 categories of mining. Class C, Class B, and Class A. The original framers of the mining law had the wisdom that in order to push back the barrier of poverty, well, let's give the local people Class C mining license. They will go by use of crude methods such as jig. And then, that philosophy now has been heavily transgressed because that exercise is very, very back-breaking. So the local miners now attempted to group themselves into so-called cooperative schemes and invite foreign nationals, the Chinese, the Malians, and the Ghanaians, who in fact gave them money. The Class C mining license is $150. And to show you that it is intended for, just to make ends meet, to improve economic livelihoods of the local people. But that is no longer obtaining. So we want to formalize the ASM sector. So considering that now the local miners are now going to maybe perhaps Class B, which is semi-industrial, we tend to lose revenue because they pay a pitiful $150 for the license. Unlike the Class B operators that pay $5,000 a year. So this is something we have to look at, and we're revising the mining law to get back to you. She also touched on something that is close to my heart: security. Mind you, there is an active jihadist rebellion in Mali and Burkina Faso. Some of those nationalities are in Liberia. We don't know what sort of hidden agenda they may have. Also, in terms of social fabric degradation, it is alleged that some of these foreign illegal miners are involved in acts of SGBV. And to an extent now, xenophobic expressions are being made by some young Liberian men who are now seeing their girlfriends, fiancés, and their wives being stolen away from them because the foreigners have a better hand to take care of them. So there's a serious concern. In fact, perhaps when you think about reducing this whole illicit mining typically to a national emergency, where we sit and discuss it and be very, very sincere. It's not the Ministry of Mines and Energy alone. Of course, we play the lead, but the citizenry has to be sincere. And I don't like for people just play the game playing. Like I said earlier on, almost all layers in society have been compromised. So, the mining agents, perhaps, they've also have been compromised. So, in fact, the anti-corruption conference today indicated that one of the major things that could undermine transparency and reverse the curse of corruption is a low pay grade. right now, some of our mineral inspectors, when I entered the ministry, I understood that about 80% of them were volunteers. So mind you, if you send a volunteer to the field without compensation, that volunteerism would turn into solicitation. So we have to wait. That's why I say we need more. An honorable speaker and co-presiding officer, members of the House of Representatives, perhaps I could just give a mixed response to most of the questions because they kind of interlinked. What mechanisms have we deployed to address this curse? We have established an interministerial mineral task force. At the higher level, the ministers that are involved would be the Minister of Mines and Energy, the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Internal Affairs, etc. Then we have the technical committee comprising of the armed forces, the police, mines, energy. They've been working. That group prepared its whole budget of $400,000. We couldn't get that money. And the intent was to use one stone to kill more than 3-4 birds. We intended to mix ourselves with the police, with LRA agents, with receipts, revenue receipts in the hand, where we see illicit activity going on, we go there and appeal to the local market to pay and get the receipt and become legal. We couldn't get into the field. We've also established the artisanal and small-scale mining sector working group. This group encompasses both local and international actors because we've been heavily dependent on donor support to run the sector and meet a tight fiscal budget. But we understand without complaining. Because the spending entities, Ministry of Health, the police, JFK, these spending entities have to be fully supported. However, my argument is that if we have a source of revenue generation, invest in that source, and then we can adequately take care of the spending entities. Because our ability to reinvest extractive sector revenue to generate sustainable economic growth must be highlighted, because she spoke like a geologist or a mine engineer. No. Mineral resources are finite. Some of these resources were placed into the Earth's crust millions of years ago, sometimes billions of years ago. And when they are extracted, who will be able to see them being replaced? So that is why we must be able to convert those resources into some tangible gains. So these are some of the drawbacks. The mining agents, well, I've been hearing lots of stories. But if the mining agent is in a mining zone that is highly productive, and he sees uncontrollability, he sees perhaps allegedly chiefs involved, private chiefs involved, local authorities involved, superintendents involved, county attorney involved. So it's just a spoiled system. That's why I say we have to appeal to the mindset of Liberians. And there was a question about, I'm asking for more funding, and I'm not an enforcement agency. The reason I'm asking for more funding is to be able to do more effective monitoring and evaluation of field activities. Now, mind you, visibility alone is a deterrent. If the illegal operators see constancy of our presence, I'm sure that could be a natural deterrent. So that's why we need to improve our network of monitoring and evaluation of mining projects.
We got go presiding, my to the winners, considering everything. Hey, man, you are talking, you are protected. I'm speaking. You don't listen.
Please, protect her, yeah?
Thank you. Considering everything that you have said to us, I want to have a clarity on this question. So when you think that Mercerado will have meters in lands connected to homes that government will begin to, they want a Mercerado to generate funding. And your execution plan, when you were coming in, you were all excited that this company coming with all of the expertise to make sure Liberia or majority of the country get current. Today you are giving her a plan of what you intend to do in 1 year when your contract going to be expiring next January, because when I came newly, I was able to read certain things. Next year, January or so. So how good is your plan to execute it before the plan, the time you will be leaving, also for us to think that we will have some of these things implemented before your contract expires? Thank you.